Hello and welcome to a video about First Solar FSLR. We start on the 4-day time frame. Shows basically the entire chart history. I decided to start the wave count here at the swing low that was made in 2012. The reason is it basically made a new swing low, below the issue price, and therefore this is like a restart of the chart. You can make a case to start with this top here, then all you need to do is to count that as a wave 1. And this would be again another wave 2, and then we add just another layer of waves, because it doesn't really make any difference to the short-term chart. It's sort of not needed, but that is certainly another possible 1-2 setup that could be placed here in a more bullish version, to make the chart more bullish than it already is, because I think it's quite a bullish chart, to be honest, overall. So that's just that we talked about that, and we can use that 1-2 then to talk about long-term targets as well. But yeah, maybe why not talk about long-term targets first, actually. So first of all, what we see here is the chart itself. And maybe I take that blue line out again. The chart itself is quite a bullish one. I would be quite bullish on First Solar. The reason is that it created a series of 1-2 setups early in its lifetime. We've got 4 1-2 setups here. That's a really good start. Bitcoin did something similar, and Apple did something similar. Many today successful businesses with good charts, they did that early in their lifetime. That's something worth mentioning. Of course, the condition is that they hold and don't break, but that's a really good start. As a young asset, you get a lot of volatility, and a lot of, let's say, 80%, 90% setbacks early in the lifetime. But it might be, when it seems at the moment, as if this early period is over and we started the third wave rally. So that's good. So you have a 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, which is bullish because all of these, as you can see, the cascade of waves will go higher. Disregard where these are sitting. That's not really accurate. It's not really based on proportions, but we can now make a call for basically a new all-time high, and we talk about the green wave 3 then. So we're looking here at least at the 1.618 extension. Now that will probably take years to play out, right? Don't get me wrong, but the minimum would be the 1.618 extension that I would like to see here in the green wave 3, maybe even higher. That's $520. Just as a guideline, from what we see now. It will depend in the end a little bit, well, it will depend fundamentally on how these subwave structures are developing, and we're going to talk about them anyway. But sort of we talk about 520, then a wave 4 setback, and then textbook target for the 5th wave here would be the 2.618 extension. We talk about $830, so that is quite decent. So it shows the upside pressure is certainly there. Before we go into the detail, maybe let's also, while we are on the 4-day chart, maybe let's look at the indicators. So let's just do that, or maybe let's start on the weekly chart. I would like to start on the weekly chart. So one thing that concerns me a little bit, and I looked at the indicators, but they are only indicating, they're not leading, but they're indicating that we have a bearish crossover on the weekly chart actually. The MACD is also at a pretty high level, and that's sort of a bit of a reason for concern for me. Because this turned bearish now on the weekly chart. Whenever that happened before, it did lead to quite a bit of a setback. So just the indicator perspective, we're on the weekly chart now. But look, when this turned bearish before, we had here, let's zoom in a bit. Let's talk in terms of drawdowns, I mean, here this was not a lot on the weekly, but this is now quite a bit how it's turning down. But then on the other hand, don't get too concerned about that, because this can turn around at an instant. Can you see that from 1 week to another, you get the pump. So again, I would take that with a pinch of salt, but when we had them, sometimes like here, we had a drawdown of around 30%. So it's a volatile asset, but that would not necessarily break the long-term trend, right? Here we had also like 30%. So that would not be unusual. Here possibly as well, something similar. So it wouldn't be unusual to expect a bit of a 30% setback at some point here with a bearish crossover on the weekly. Now that already started. And if you look at that, we already had the 23% setback. So, you know, we're sort of there or thereabout, and the Elliott wave analysis will confirm that. So, okay, maybe it's not too concerning. I just want to flag it up. Bearish crossover on the weekly, which basically would be in line with the count here as well. But I will give you the key support level that needs to hold to make further upside likely. Yeah. Monthly chart will be interesting as well. Here we are still pushing higher. Yeah. MACD, just need to observe, you know, that this is not going to get a top here, because on the monthly, I mean, that's possibly even more significant when we get a bearish crossover there. MACD is pretty high now, but so far no reason for concern yet, at least I would say. Yeah? But certainly we had quite a decent rally. At some point this needs to correct down. Not overbought yet on the monthly. So from an indicator point of view, I think we have here currently, we see it on the chart anyway, downside pressure. But it's not, for me, it's not reason for concern yet to talk about a long-term trend break and the possible breakdown. Yeah, but I will give you the support levels that you need to observe. So now let's look at the detail here. Look at the daily chart. Already highlighted that we had this series of 1-2 setups here. 1-2, 1-2. That's not relevant now. It just means that the chart is quite loaded up for further upside generally for the next few weeks. No, not weeks, years basically. Then we have here another 1-2 setup. Yeah. And this started basically in March 2020. This wave 1, then we had an ABC down in a wave 2. Now let's go into detail, because this is now where it's getting interesting. Bottomed here in a wave 2. So first of all, let's just check the fib retracements. Golden ratio perfectly, yeah, perfect target for a wave 2. That gives confidence in the wave count. And we bottomed here basically in May 22, yeah, so a year ago basically. And since then we've just been running. And I'm counting this here as a 1-2 setup in the third wave. If you zoom out, you see that it's the third wave of a third wave of a third wave. So it's quite bullish, at least at the moment, yeah. And I'm counting this as a 5-wave move complete now. I don't think it can push any higher in this particular third wave. I think this is it. If we look at what Fibonacci extension did that third wave actually reach? Yeah, so the area between the 1.618 extension and the 200% extension is a perfect target for a third wave. Looking at the indicator on the daily, you can see that that this had a very high reading on the RSI. You typically get that in the third wave. Okay, so that confirms the view as well. But then if we zoom in, why do I think this move up is finished? Locally, at least this third wave, because for a continuation of the third wave, it basically dropped too far. And I can count a nice ending diagonal in this orange fifth wave. So I can count here wave 1, wave 2, a 3, a 4, and then a wave 5. Ending diagonal in the wave 5. It happens quite frequently. Yeah, perfect, because you then often get these sort of wedge patterns, yeah, towards the end. It was quite obvious here, as you can see, yeah, and then it broke down. And this could now be the fourth wave based on my reading, yeah. So that would be the bullish version, where we say, okay, this here is now a fourth wave setback. How far is this wave 4 allowed to come down to still allow for further upside? And what is the target? So typically what you would expect, it has a little bit more space, not that much. I need to change the wave 4. So it's now basically in the support area that is relevant for a fourth wave. So we look at the area. So between the 23.6 fib, that's 183.55, and the 50% fib at 140.80. In the middle, we've got the ideal target for a fourth wave. That's the 38.2 fib. So ideally, we hit this somewhere, this area. Yeah, we are already in the box. From here, it can at any point turn around. Ideal target is the 159.90 level, so the 38.2 fib. That's ideal for a fourth wave. The way we are coming down would suggest that this is playing out as a zigzag pattern, which makes sense. Why does it make sense? Because the wave 2, as you can see here, was a flat. What is a flat pattern? A flat pattern is a sideways correction. You can see this correction moved rather sideways. A wave down, overshooting B wave, C wave down. That's a flat pattern. It's a sideways correction. Whereas you have, if you have wave 2 as sideways, wave 4 is often sharp. Oh, makes sense, doesn't it? Now, in this wave 4, what we typically would expect is an ABC correction, but as a zigzag. So A wave, yeah, because it came down quite impulsive. Then there should be a shallow B wave and a C wave at some point. But I don't have I don't have evidence that the A wave is over, but it should be over soon. And then we should get a B up and a C down. What is resistance for B? So I can give you sort of a target for B, or let's say resistance. But I have to assume A wave bottomed. I don't have the evidence for it. But this would be the resistance for the B wave. Here, between 195.84 and $210. Above that level, when price breaks above that level, it would indicate we're already in a breakout in the next wave up. Yeah, but for now, I'd be looking at a clearer three-wave structure here, with B ideally bouncing into that area and then getting rejected. And after that, we should get a fifth wave, but I cannot really give you a fifth wave target without the fourth wave low. Yeah, and I mean, that could play out now for a bit, right? That this is not going to be over soon. I don't think so, at least. I mean, this move up took a year, so you will not get that all corrected in a month or so, right? That's why we've got this ABC correction. That could now play out over many weeks, okay? Imagine you will get your B wave, which is normally quite choppy, then a C wave down. And at some point in that orange box, at least, we should hold support. If price breaks below $140.80, then this immediate bullish upside setup is going to be challenged. Yeah. Then, depending on the structure, it is either going to be another 1-2 setup, which will come down lower and then can come down as low as 94.49 in the bullish scenario. But if it breaks below 94.49, I would be looking at something more bearish. Yeah, with possibly new lows coming. How would that look? The bearish case, which I wouldn't follow at this stage because the trend is clearly up. But the bearish case would, for me, be ABC down, yeah, in an A wave. That this here is something like a B wave. Again, also here maybe A wave, B wave, C wave up, yeah, or WXY in a B wave, and then we would move down. But that would be a very, very bearish case. And I would only really look at that if we go below $94. But until then, I think we're heading higher. And that orange box is relevant support. Yeah. Now we can go into maybe the 4-hour chart here to try to get a bit more detail. But that's really, I guess, as good as it gets, really. The move down, it's hard, but it's hard to count. But you could make the case that we have an A wave complete now, or nearly complete. Yeah. it's hard to really look at the subwaves here. You could say maybe a small 1-2 here, but then the strong move down is suggestive of a third wave. Then maybe this was the fourth, and we now maybe one more tiny low here in an A wave, but it should be really neatly done. And then we get that B wave, yeah, which would be a 3-wave move in itself. And yeah, this is sort of what we can see and say at the moment about First Solar. Maybe here on the lower time frame, looking at the indicators, you can see, I mean, we're now oversold on the 8-hour chart due to that strong push to the downside into support. Even on the daily, we're now oversold. I mean, last time we were oversold on the daily that much, it was down here. I'm just saying, right? I mean, it's only an indicator, but if you look at the history, the oversold on the daily called quite decent lows. Yeah, I mean, look at that. This one it called. This one it called. This one, which wasn't that significant, but eventually it rallied. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's pretty good here as well. This one was not so good, but you know, no indicators 100%. This one worked nicely. So I think there is enough, you know, if you look at probabilities, it's now oversold again on the daily. We could get that B wave bounce. Okay, so that's my view about FSLR. Hope you liked the update. Thank you very much. Bye bye.